This whole project started as kind of a labor of love. I would say it's in my blood. It goes back generations. So Amy and I founded Maverick Whiskey to honor my great-great-great-grandparents, Sam and Mary Maverick.
Sam and Mary played a huge role in the history of Texas. Sam signed the Texas Declaration of Independence. He served in the legislature. He also served as mayor of San Antonio.
I found a copy of Sam's original diaries that we base our Alamo whiskey on. Back in those days, he used to whiskey as currency. He would close a deal with a barrel of whiskey and a handshake. We stayed as true to the old ways as much as even a copper still, and we source all of our grains from Texas. It's real cowboy whiskey.
Ken and I, in the current generation of Mavericks, are still making whiskey in the traditional manner, but we've just taken it a step further and modernized it.
Originally, this building was a bank building. It's 101 years old. We do everything in-house. We have a gourmet restaurant, a distillery, a brewery, and an event space. And everything is made by hand in-house.
The reason this building is so special to us is that it sits on part of the Maverick's original family homestead, and it just sits steps from the Alamo.
It's so much fun because we see people from all over coming, and we love to share the stories of the Alamo and our family history, and to try to create an authentic experience that is purely San Antonio.
Now that is as cool as it looks, because that place is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I've said this like every night, but I can't wait to go back once we get to go. I'm like, man, I've like got my list. I guess we'll just do the trail again.
Yeah, I know. I was lucky because I actually got to go pick up a bottle and check it out again. And I mean, even though, you know, everything's closed and everything, it's still really, really cool to see that place and just the history of it.
Well, and I think I've decided I want us to do the trail like during, I've said this before too, I think, like during normal business hours.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like plan
like a Saturday.
Yeah. Like plan to just go.
Yeah.
And just enjoy it and not really do any work other than visit with friends. And so we have to do that. Anyway.
Well, hey, we got just a quick update from everybody. We are still running the Still Strong TX campaign. If you haven't yet, please go to TexasWhiskeyTrailStore.com and buy a Still Strong TX t-shirt. They look like this, modeled by the lovely Hall family. So it's a still and then sanitizer bottle. And it says Still Strong TX, and it has our logos and stuff on it. So we have those in all sizes. Please go ahead and buy it. Everything that you buy from that will go to basically help our members through this kind of rough period, either deferring the cost of dues or you know, helping us. This is not just a Texas Whiskey Association only effort.
Right.
We've been working with distilleries across the state, whether they're members or not, making sure that we have or that they have the resources they need to produce sanitizer correctly and things like that. Did we introduce ourselves?
We did not. So if this is your first video that you're watching, I'm Sarah Whelan.
I'm Spencer Whelan.
Yeah.
And I'm forgetful.
It's Friday.
It is very Friday. And this is the second time I've forgotten to do this on a Friday. So this is now a tradition.
Well, it really does feel at this point kind of like a get together.
It does. It's like a hang.
It does. I look forward to it. Some adult conversation in the evening.
We get our kids down literally minutes before we step onto this. So
actually, our daughter, my dad's reading to her right now over FaceTime. So thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Pappy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as you can see, we're doing a lot of things in the Texas Whiskey Association. So you can see that. Around the sanitizer issue because of the outbreak, because of this world that we're living in that's odd and goofy right now. But we don't want to do that forever. We want to go back to making and tasting whiskey and getting back onto the trail.
Well, we don't make the whiskey.
Well, sure.
The distillers do.
They do.
And it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Or at least it's a good thing that I'm not making the whiskey.
Yeah. One thing I think is funny is like in this whole sanitizer thing, like like the distillers have to do something that they're not used to, which is making things taste bad.
Right.
Right. Like that's been the whole issue with the FDA is making the ethanol that comes off of it taste bad so that, you know, kids don't want to consume it and stuff. Yeah. But these guys are so good at making whiskey taste good. And that's what we want to focus on for this podcast is talk about what whiskeys are on the trail. We're going to taste through them, go through all the certified Texas whiskeys. And tonight we have Maverick Whiskey Company out of San Antonio, Texas.
That's right.
And it is amazing.
I love that place.
Everything about that place, from the history to the actual physical architecture to the way they set up their stills and their tasting room and their restaurant, is ridiculous. So without further ado, I would love to bring on the head distiller of Maverick Whiskey Company, Rikk Munroe. Rick, how are you?
Good. How's it going, guys?
Good. I'm loving seeing that Longhorn logo. I
wore that for you.
I almost wore that. We had an Aggie on last night from Lone Elm, and I'm like, we got to get some Longhorns. Oh yeah, Rick's coming on. So hook 'em, baby.
Awesome.
So how are you doing?
We're good, man. We're burning our candle at both ends down there at the distillery, but we're hanging in there and doing what we can to kind of help people out and keep our lights on.
Yeah, so talk to us briefly about what you're working on from the sanitizer perspective, because I know that you guys have shifted a lot of production to that. You've already done a lot of things for your community. You're also selling sanitizer to the local community, and we highly encourage all of you out there, if you're going to pick up some sanitizer, please buy it from the distillery if you can, because there aren't many places where you can get it, and this is not all charity. You're kind of helping keeping the lights on for these folks, but you're also providing it to first responders when needed, your local hospitals, things like that. But what are you guys doing on the sanitizer front right now?
So initially, when we first, we started doing it the last couple of weeks in March, and we were just peeling off, like our waste alcohol essentially, and redistilling it so that you're removing all the methanol and acetone, and you're getting good alcohol at a sufficiently high enough proof to act as a sanitizer. And so we were, only doing small quantities initially. And then, we found out pretty quickly that, people are having a hard time getting this stuff, and we got to kick it into high gear. And so we, were able to secure a donation of grain from our grain supplier, Maverick Malt House, who's they're unaffiliated with us.
And great guys out of Wildorado.
Awesome folks up there in North Texas. And so they hooked us up with a bunch of grain. And so we transitioned 100% of our operation into making hand sanitizer. And so we've been running 7 days a week, trying to get that stuff out as fast as we can.
So on that front, how tired of receiving FDA advisement emails are you getting from me?
I mean, I'm kind of a geek for the nitty gritty, like technical manual stuff. And so I don't, those emails coming in and like reading through that isn't laborious for me. And so I like to follow the rules.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
I'm kind of tired of them, but it's okay.
No, I'm tired of sending them. Trust me.
Well, it's crazy how much it's changed. In fact, to kind of illustrate how much it's been on the forefront, and it's kind of the only thing we're all thinking about and talking about and working on and trying to figure out. Our son was working on a school thing, and they were supposed to fill out like their needs and wants.
Yep.
And my mother-in-law asked him, like, well, what are your needs? And he's like, I need air, I need shelter, I need food, and I need sanitizer. I was like, our work here is done.
Yeah.
Or like we need to scale back. I don't know.
Yeah, one way or the other.
Yeah.
We got a house full of alcohol because of all the bottles we've been doing for this podcast, and like sanitizer in every corner.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh man, this is a weird world that we're in.
I know. But it's so cool to see.
It is strange
to see what everyone's been able to step up and do, and
a
service they've been able to provide that if we didn't have this. I think that's what I want everybody to understand more than anything is, like, there have been some articles written about it around what we're doing collectively as an industry. But we're really doing something amazing here. Yeah. And you guys are doing something amazing for your local community. I know you've been working with police stations and everybody else as well. But it is something to be impressed by. It is something to be noted. And I hope the history books look fondly upon this time of Texas, because they really came together.
Yeah. And I mean, huge shout out to you guys too for, kind of spearheading this and helping with the compliance part of it, and, lobbying the state and federal government to, get some rules bent so that we can make the stuff with,
Yeah, it's amazing when liquor laws, like, one thing I've noticed about this is that it's kind of exposed all the traditional blue laws that we have in this state. It's kind of exposed them for how unnecessary some of them are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, alcohol is a highly regulated market, as it should be, right? I mean, there's a lot there, but one thing that I think this has done is it has shown, hey, we're adults. Texans know what to do with this. They know how to make sure that they're getting the product they need. And oh, by the way, we have this amazing manufacturing industry now in the state that can provide this in a pinch.
Yeah, and the turnaround was amazing to watch all of these facilities that, were not really set up to make this stuff.
Yeah.
Just in a matter of weeks, fully convert to doing it. And, the supply chain hoops we've had to jump through trying to get some of the other raw materials like glycerin and hydrogen peroxide and all of that. It's been awesome. And everybody's working together, the guys at Whitmire and, securing some of that stuff and helping to distribute it in Gulf Coast. And it's amazing to see it and also to be a part of it. You stop and realize how kind of cool this is, that we can all rally around this cause and make some change.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is a funny comment from Charles Massey. He's a trailblazer. And he said, my grandchildren asked me what my job was during the pandemic of 2020. I'll tell them I was a tail gunner on an HEB toilet paper delivery truck.
That is awesome.
That's about right, Charles. That's about the world that we're living in now.
Yeah.
It's about that chaotic and odd. I keep saying that we're on this alternate timeline somehow, where why not? I mean, that seems as likely as anything these days.
Yeah.
So what we want to do to kind of switch gears is we want to talk about whiskey, right? And we want to talk about what you guys want to do rather than making sanitizer is produce amazing whiskey.
Yeah.
And we have 4 of your expressions here, 2 of which are basically unaged or aged for a day in some cases, right? And then one is your new straight bourbon that you have, and another is a test of something that you lent to us of good things to come.
I didn't know you got a sample.
We did get a sample. We did get a sample. I can show you the label, but there it is. So thank you, Rick, for providing that sample for us.
My pleasure.
So before we get into that, though, why don't you talk a little bit about what your history is in distilling in the state and how you got into Maverick and how the kind of operation got started there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started distilling professionally in 2012 for Central Texas vodka distillery called Dripping Springs Vodka. Yeah. And I kind of, I got on, I'd worked, I bounced around different jobs out, during and after college, mostly in the aviation field, but home brewing and beer in general were kind of a big, passion for me. And I tried getting on at different breweries and, with little experience, it's hard. But Dripping Springs, I guess, saw something in me. They asked if I could drive a forklift, and I said, yeah. So they hired me, and I just fell in love with distilling and started absorbing, all of the, industry circulars and technical manuals and all kinds of stuff, and fell in love with the science behind it, and realized I probably should have paid attention in chemistry class in high school and college, and but so anyway, I worked.
That's why we're having to do this, because of that attitude.
Yeah. And so I worked my way up through the ranks there, and eventually was promoted to production manager and head distiller for them. And so all told, I was with that company for I was with them for almost 5 years, and then I jumped ship to Ben Milam Whiskey and helped Marcia build the Ben Milam distillery out there in Blanco, and ran it for a couple of years, and then met Ken and found out what they were doing in San Antonio and wanted to be a part of it. And so went down to we picked up and moved to San Antonio and helped squeeze a distillery into a 100-year-old bank. And so So I've been at that for 2 years now, and we're a year into production. We started getting whiskey into barrels March of last year, so we're getting closer and closer to having lots and lots of cool aged whiskeys.
Yeah. Well, and I love the vision for, I mean, like if I take a step back and think about like what it must have been like to kind of walk into that building.
Yeah.
Empty before you guys did anything to it and think, you know what would go really well here? A distillery.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't, in all seriousness,
No,
in most any other like downtown bank type building, you wouldn't walk in and think, I know what would make this work. But that I think is what makes it so spectacular.
Yeah.
Is that it's so kind of out of left field, but because it's paying homage to the family and the history, it just makes it all come alive.
Yeah.
And I think that is so cool. So did you come, when you jumped on board, had you guys done any of the construction build out, anything like that yet?
So a lot of the reno had been done. So they had, the walls were framed up, and a lot of holes were cut in floors. But that was about it. There was no sheetrock up or anything like that, and so I got to sort of put the puzzle together and and figure out where all the equipment was going to go, and then shove it through a giant hole in the wall and stand it up and put it in place.
We should talk about the Longhorn on top of the still, which is amazing, which earlier on my Insta page, Texas Whiskey Woman, I was like, is it Longhorn antlers? No, that's not right. Oh, I told her, made me take it
I told her, I was like, this is the first time I've been like kind of embarrassed by something you posted. Like, you don't call those antlers. Like, what in the
antlers?
World?
Right?
Yeah, she's like,
I was like, that doesn't sound right, but I don't, just horns?
It's like horns. Yes, they're horns.
Yeah.
grab the bull by the horns, not grab the bull by the antlers.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not from Texas, y'all.
She's from Seattle, and
right?
But we're getting her there.
12 years, 13 years, something like that in Texas.
Yeah,
you're honorary now.
But it's so cool. So I assume that was your idea.
I'm actually ashamed to admit that was not my idea.
Really?
No, Ken brought them in, and I think they were going to end up on the wall somewhere. And I can't remember who suggested it, but it wasn't me. And then once they went up there, I was like, oh my God, this makes perfect sense. But
of course,
I'm glad they're there.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It's so iconic.
Texas, and
it's
so
that's why I like on the screen share or the still image that I had to share for this live stream. I had to put that there. One, because hook 'em, but two, because like it is so iconic, right? It is like you just go in there and you see that and you're like, okay, that's exactly where those should be. Yeah,
it was fun putting them up there without a ladder.
Oh yeah.
I can imagine
how you get them up there.
Like, I mean, speak about that though, because like it is a relatively small space that you guys have in that 100-year-old bank building, but you guys did an amazing job of efficiently building a distillery inside of a building, but also building it in a way so that the visitors can watch your production.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that, credit to the architect on that one, Greg Shue. So he framed out the space, and then I got to basically figure out how it all had to fit in the space. And so it was challenging. I mean, originally the still wasn't going to go where it is now. But I figured out, once you start putting tape on the ground, trying to figure out what's going to go where, it's like, oh my God, there's no room to walk if it doesn't go somewhere else. And so, it worked out really well. You got, the picture window view of the still from the restaurant. And so it was a challenge, getting it done, but now it's, totally rewarding to look at it all and kind of marvel at how we shoehorned it all in there.
Well, and it feels so logical. Like, it's like, well, of course this is how it should all be. which I think is amazing. Because then you step back and you're like, no, wait a second, this was a bank. Like any bank I've ever been into, I cannot imagine transforming into something like this.
Well, and it's very cool the way you guys, and for those of you that joined maybe a little bit late, we're going to show that same video that we introed with at the end. And you can kind of get a feel of what we're talking about here. But when you walk in, first of all, you guys like ripped up the floor and found the original floors of the bank, right?
Yeah. So the original terrazzo flooring was uncovered during the construction. And so we kind of tried to save that and highlight it. But it's amazing that it's survived. You know, we had to patch some of it in some places, but it's just unbelievable that, you know, the workmanship from, you know, 102 or 103 years ago, that it's still here, and you know, it's beautiful stuff.
I mean, ironically, since the start of Prohibition, right? I mean, like that's when the bank was built, was in the Prohibition era, and now
shortly before. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Like,
I never thought about that.
This is kind of evil of me, but I love picturing like some Southern Baptist like clerk.
Yeah.
And I used to be Southern, you know, I come from Southern Baptist heritage. Yeah. So like I say this with love, but I love like envisioning like some little clerk working there. Yeah. Like having no idea that
100 years from now, this is going to be a distillery.
Evil whiskey is going to descend.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Sarah, you're getting some love here in the comments. Do you know what a horned toad looks like?
Yes, but not before I lived here. I didn't. I didn't even really know they existed.
But to kind of continue the thread about that, like you walk into the first level and you have your visitor center and your gift shop right there to the left, and you have kind of a wall of history of the Maverick family and everything, and the stories and some of the original like manuscripts. I think you have recipe for the we can talk about that in a second, but then you have a bank of glass wall, and then you can see the entire production floor. And then if you go up to the second floor, that's where the restaurant is, and you have this amazing, beautiful bar, and that also has a glass banked wall, and you can look down and to see the production facility. So like it's a fully immersive culinary and distilling experience.
Yeah, you know, the Maverick family did an amazing job conceptualizing this whole thing, and then, you know, just it all came together. Like, I mean, it's just, you know, you get so wrapped up in the day-to-day operations and everything, but you stop and look around, and it's, you know, just truly amazing. But,
does it feel a little bit weird feeling like you're working in a fishbowl sometimes?
That's what we actually call it, the aquarium.
That's awesome.
No mistakes.
It does kind of look like an aquarium.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let's talk about the recipe. So what did you take from that kind of original recipe to then build on or tweak or whatever all you've done?
Yeah, so the Alamo whiskey recipe was the original family recipe, and then we had to, you know, obviously it was written before the TTB existed, and so it didn't fit into the neat and tidy boxes. Yeah. And so, you know, there was an ingredient or two we had to omit, and I wasn't sure, based on the way that the recipe was written, how that ingredient was incorporated, if it was during fermentation or after it was distilled. And so it was easy to just knock that off. But it's essentially a 4-grain bourbon. You know, it has enough corn in it to be a bourbon mash bill. But, you know, corn, rye, wheat, and barley, and it makes some really good distillate. And the stuff that, you know, the initial release, the clear stuff was, you know, we wanted to get something out there when we opened the doors. And so I think I have an original bottle here.
Here we go. Is that the same bottle? Yeah, it is.
No, well, the label's a little different. Yeah, we had these labels printed quickly before the embossed ones came out.
Yeah. Well, I have a confession to make. Today, the little Kona ice truck came through the neighborhood, which there's big hoo-ha-ha online right now about people debating over that. But anyway, we kept our distance, and anyway, we got a little something. And I was like, I need something stronger than Kona Ice sugar-free tiger's blood. This isn't going to cut it. So I'm like, okay, well, what do I add? And I'm looking at everything. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And just like looking at all the whiskeys, and I was like, that it just doesn't feel right. And then I saw the Alamo whiskey, and I was like, well, it's clear, which I feel like you put more clear things into like mixed drinks. And so I poured it in. It was actually pretty good.
I bet it was.
I mean, I feel a little bad because I'm like, oh, I hate to do this to such good whiskey to pour it into sugar-free Kona Ice tiger blood flavor. But
I would consider that just sanitizing it just to make sure.
It was a good one. It gave me the next little energy to clean the floors.
Do you ever think that your whiskey would be put into a Kona Ice snow cone?
Not initially, but Eric Waite, so he like mixed our stuff into a margarita and was talking about how good it was.
Yeah.
And so we, obviously I got to try it. And
yeah,
I was blown away by how well the Alamo works in a margarita.
Was it the Alamo or was it the light whiskey that he was using?
He was using the Alamo whiskey.
That's actually awesome. Such a good idea. That would be so good.
Well, Andalusia has a whiskey margarita.
Yeah.
That they do as well with their, basically their white dog that comes off.
What is interesting about that is that my father, who does not like whiskey, he just doesn't like it. He likes the Andalusia margarita, but he's a big margarita guy.
Yep. And
he likes it at Andalusia. Like that's his favorite margarita that he's tried, which I'm kind of like, that's whiskey, Dad.
Yeah.
It's that's interesting. So I don't know. Add to your menu there.
So is it part of the menu now?
The margarita, we make a lot of other products. And so we have an agave spirit that goes into our margarita, but you can certainly get it, you can call it and mix it into a margarita if you want to.
Well, let's take a second because we need to appreciate this because your bottles are damned amazing. I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, for those of you, I'll try to show you the whole bottle here, but it's this beautiful kind of greenish glass that my God, you guys must have spent some serious time and effort conceptualizing that. I mean, you got the beautiful wooden cork top and it feels weighty. It's got Samuel Maverick's embossed name on the bottom. It's it feels beautiful. And it tells a story on the back about the history. It's just, you guys you knocked this out of the park.
Thank you. That's, so our designer was Una Hart with Dando Projects. And she is a meticulous designer. And so I think she did an awesome job taking what, Ken and Amy envisioned and making it a reality, and they were going for this apothecary style bottle, and when you hold it, you want it to feel substantive, in your hand. And so the weight is there and the green tint, it all just came together, it's just unreal. Yeah. So, the pressure was on me to make the distillate good enough to go in the bottle.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I think you have. And then on that note, I think we should start drinking.
Yeah, I was about to break my rule again.
Yeah, no. She's really bad about that.
No, okay. So let's talk about.
He's ahead of us.
Yeah.
So.
What is the difference between the White Dog and the Alamo?
So we've got Alamo whiskey is, it's a 4-grain mash bill based on the family recipe. And initially it was only aged a day so we could get stuff into a bottle and get some business going. And then, so we're aging that further, we've got stocks and stocks of that's sitting for at least 2 years. And then the light whiskey came about because we were having a conversation about, vodka, making vodka or not making vodka. And I was like, well, I've always wanted to distill light whiskey and, it's like vodka, but not, it's got to be distilled above 160, but below 190. So, we kicked it around for a while and then we just decided to go for it. And so we distilled that stuff and we were initially, I was going to age it a little longer, but, we were only aging the Alamo for a day. So I was like, well, why not just age this for a day too and get it into a bottle.
Yeah.
And so the difference is the light whiskey is distilled to a much higher proof than the Alamo whiskey. And then it gets a little heavier filtration. And so it's a cleaner distillate, like the Alamo is a little closer to White Dog because, it basically comes off the still. We cut it, put it into a barrel, and then, empty the barrel and run light filtration. And so that Alamo is a little closer to White Dog than the light whiskey.
Yeah. And for those of you that aren't aware, like as you were saying, light whiskey is between 160 and 190 proof, because once you get after 190 proof, then you're making vodka. And for those of you that aren't familiar with what the rules of vodka are, it's basically you have to remove flavor.
Yeah.
It has to be a literal neutral spirit that has no discernible grain component flavor. You're distilling all of the flavor out and then cutting it with water to make a vodka product.
Yeah.
But a light whiskey still has some of that grain flavor but is easier to mix into lots of other cocktails and fun things like that. And this is what it looks like, by the way. You guys have this for sale as well.
We do, yeah. We still have a few hundred bottles of that left. And so the clear stuff is, slowly going away. Once we sell out of it in the retail space, it'll be gone. Because it was always a transition product, right?
Right.
We are moving into our age stuff now, and I'll be sad to see it go, but also not sad. Clear whiskey is a hard sell.
Yeah.
It is. But it's something that you got to do at the beginning of a distillery. So we have the one day aged, and another little point of fact is that people are saying, "Oh, now you're cheating. Now you're looking at the color," but it spends a day in a barrel to technically be a whiskey.
Right. It's got to touch wood.
Yeah. So you have one that's been aged a day, and that's your Alamo, and then you have your light whiskey, which is a different distillate.
So I think this is Alamo, and this is light.
No. Look at the color.
Oh.
See, for those of you that I don't know if you guys can see this, but
So you're telling me a date
there is a difference in the color, but that is one day, and you can already see a color change.
See, I was thinking the light whiskey just on the nose.
Yeah.
Was because it is a little reminiscent of what I had in Macona Ice earlier. I mean, I just poured it and mixed it before. I didn't taste it earlier.
Yeah, I'm sure you didn't.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Let's see if I do better on the other.
One thing I will say I love about this is just how much you can pick out the grains. Like for people who aren't used to drinking White Dog or smelling White Dog off the still, you get exactly the things that you think were in there when you were fermenting and distilling. You're like, oh, that's the essence of what I put into the mash,
Yeah, it truly is amazing how crystal clear those flavors are when they come off the still. I mean, it's, we some of the stuff we distilled into hand sanitizer was 100% corn mash, and I'd never run 100% corn before.
Yeah. And
so when we distilled it, off the still, it was like the liquid out of a can of corn. I mean, it was unbelievable. Like,
yeah,
just how much that flavor translates.
I mean, I think this light whiskey almost tastes like, or not tastes like, it almost smells a little bit like gin.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like I get kind of that botanical.
Mm-hmm.
But
and part of that could be because of,
right.
Gin is vodka with
But
botanicals
this
added.
is so smooth and easy to drink. And I think the light stuff, it isn't. Sometimes it's really intense.
Yes.
Like really intense.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you drink it mixed and stuff. But I could easily sip on this. It is.
So you are
really nice.
you're a fan. You're a fan of The Office. So I think you're going to appreciate AJ's comment here.
That's what she said.
There you go. Thanks, AJ.
Man.
It's Friday.
I know.
Crazy.
We're actually rewatching The Office.
We are rewatching The Office. Yeah. That's our quarantine binging right now.
I tried
Tiger King, which is goes well with your.
That was a rough watch.
Have you seen that yet, Rick? Tiger King?
Yeah, Tiger King I felt dirty after I watched that.
I know.
It was so crazy.
And I was just like, of course, it's Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
That's one of those shows, though, that makes you feel like you're really crushing it at life. Like, I'm so good.
Yeah. She loves to watch all those shows, like, you know, like the TLC shows. And I'm just like they just make you feel better by comparison. You know?
Yeah.
I guess that's what it's for, right? It's just
I'm like, I'm doing great.
And I can't stand them. Like, I just walk into a room and there'll be like this, you know, 600-pound person with bed sores. And I'm like, no.
Oh my God.
I think
like
we're
rubbernecking a car wreck.
too much into our lives. Oh, and we haven't had that much whiskey yet.
Yeah, no, well, it's Friday.
Okay. So let's talk about these other two that I'm going to try.
So let's talk about that. So this is your newer, this is your straight bourbon.
That's right.
You want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. So that one. So full disclosure, you know, this straight bourbon is a sourced whiskey, but it's from a Texas distillery. We can't tell you who, but he's a friend of mine, and you know, we wanted to get. Initially, we were going to try to wait and release our own stuff, but that's a really hard thing to do. And so, you know, we molded over and decided to, you know, I come from a distillery where sourcing was, you know, our bread and butter for a long time. And so I'm familiar with it, and I don't have any issue with it. I mean, the guys in Scotland have been doing it for a long time, you know, very well. So, we're getting this 4-year-old bourbon, and you know, we mix it up, and you know, we'll batch it and bottle it, and it's killer stuff. 100% distilled in Texas from Texas grain, and it's going to help us bridge the gap, you know, for the next year or so until we can get our stocks aged sufficiently to release.
Yeah, and for those of you that are curious, the certified Texas whiskey mark can go on any product that was where you started with grain. Not all the grain has to originate from Texas, but you start with grain. So you go from grain to glass, all in the state. So the major steps are, you know, mashing, fermentation, distillation, maturation, and bottling, right? So if those steps occur in the state of Texas, whether or not you source between a distillery or not, it doesn't matter. Then it's certifiable. Yeah. So this would be a certified Texas whiskey based on what you're saying.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and this is the kind of product we wanted to be able to also see, right?
Yes.
To give the chance for the newer distilleries to have some income stream, to figure something out.
Yep.
Like the Crowded Barrel Alliance series with the Texas Whiskey Festival, like
blend of multiple certified Texas whiskeys.
Yeah. So folks are doing all kinds of really cool stuff with sourced whiskey. So it's fun, and it's clearly labeled, and it's all good.
Now, so you have two aged spirits here in front of you. You have one that's the 4-year bourbon.
Okay.
And then you have this one that is, can I tell people what it is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So this is your 1-year aged rye.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I'm a sucker for
rye. 1 year aged?
That's right. 1 year and 1 day.
Nice. Okay. So is this, what percent rye is this?
So it is 72% rye.
Oh, wow. So you should be able to theoretically.
How many times have I gotten wrong this far? Yeah.
But she's fallen in love with rye. Like
I love it. I mean,
yeah, even before the last 2 weeks, and I've said this ad nauseum, but it's weird to me that I love rye because I love sweet. But I do. I totally love rye. I haven't quite figured out why, but yeah.
So can you pick out the rye versus the bourbon on nose alone?
Yeah, this is the rye.
Nope.
Oh!
I don't know why I feel like I win, but I did.
Is that like the third or fourth time I've done this now? Oh my goodness, y'all.
Yeah.
This totally.
I think that
I will say this bourbon has a different nose on it than its taste.
It does. I like to let it breathe a little bit, 10 or 15 minutes in the glass before you drink it. And it really comes alive, with a drop or two of water.
Yeah, you could try that too.
Yeah, because, okay, so the rye to me smells sweeter. And the 4-year bourbon smells spicy. And that's like what I usually.
I understand. Try, but have you tasted?
No, I haven't tasted them.
Do the taste on each.
Okay.
Because again, on the nose, you're going to get way more variation than you are on the taste, right?
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't it though? Now, is this on the bourbon? What's the mash on that? Is it a 4 grain as well, or?
No, it's 2 grain. So it's corn and rye.
Corn and rye.
Both Texas grown.
Yeah. Right.
Did you make some up, Spencer?
No.
So interesting. Because I get on the bourbon, I got so much like pepper.
Well, I mean, he said it's only 2 grains, so you got the corn and rye, and then you got a 72% rye. That's theirs.
Oh, that's cool.
I got to tell you though, on the rye, is the intention for this to be a straight rye? So new charred oak.
Yeah, new charred oak. Right now, it's only been aged a year and a day, but we're holding out for 2 years on that one. So April of 2021, it'll be 2 years. And it's,
man,
I mean, it hits all the rye notes on the palate for sure.
I mean, this is so. All right, I'll save my interpretation. But if you were to compare this rye at a year, which look, granted, it's not a fair comparison to something that's spent more time than she just stole it from me.
He's taking too long.
It's not a fair comparison to something that's spent more time in the barrel. But in Texas, you can get a lot more out of a year than you would expect in most places.
Yeah, I wouldn't guess that this is a year.
No. What would you compare it to for another maybe like more accessible rye that's on the market?
As far as commercial stuff goes, I mean, it reminds me of like the Sazerac rye, like Buffalo Trace's rye expression.
Yeah.
I mean, it needs more time in the barrel, but just for 12 months, it's wild.
Now, can you at this point taste this and kind of have an idea of how much longer you think you'll want to go, or is it?
I mean, you're trying to go 2 years straight at least, right?
Yeah. I know our summers are volatile. And so I'm hoping that 2 years on the dot is exactly what it needs. I mean, tasting it right now, like when I pulled the sample to give to Spencer, I was blown away by the complexity on this. Like, it doesn't taste, because I was tasting them, we put them in the barrel, I'd taste them about once a month, and that new make character hung around for 6 or 8 months.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it has that anymore. I think it's getting closer to a fully matured whiskey.
Okay.
I was going to compare this to Whistle Pig Rye.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like to me, I'm getting a lot of the same. I mean, damn, dude, this is really good.
Yeah. Is there a point as it's aging where you do like, oh yeah, about 6 months out, I feel like I have a good handle on, okay, it's going to be ready then? Or is it just, you never know and it's different every time?
I mean, it's more of the latter, like especially in our climate. I mean, you got to kind of stay on top of the barrels as they're aging, especially in smaller oak. We're this stuff that we're aging initially is in 30-gallon barrels. And so that was kind of another one of the challenges we had to deal with was because of the downtown environment of the distillery. They didn't want us aging in 53-gallon barrels. And so, we had to age in some smaller casks. And I think that's also, benefiting us because it's going to taste much more mature sooner. But you got to stay on top of it in our climate, because 1 month and it might get over oaked. 1 month too long.
Yeah. Now, was this rye down in the vault?
Yep.
Yeah, you got to talk about that. Like, what is the vault?
The vault has been a blessing and a curse, because so when you hear vault, you think like constant temperature, but we actually ventilated that space, and so we're blowing fresh air in and exhausting the air at a pretty good clip. I mean, it's 150 cubic feet of air per square foot per minute, so it's moving. And so it's essentially 5 degrees give or take of ambient outside, and so in the summer it gets blistering down there.
Yeah.
And in the winter it gets pretty cold, and so you're getting that nice the up and down that seasonal variation, and not so much day to night. It stays pretty warm down there during the nighttime, especially in the summer, but I'm happy with the way this. I had no idea what to expect. You put whiskey in an environment like that, and you don't know what it's going to do. And so I've been pleasantly surprised with that. Getting things in and out of the basement vault is, you got to get creative, but it's been really good.
And now I think that's interesting too, because some people have Rickhouses and metal framed buildings, or steel frame buildings, I should say, and they'll have like one side of the Rickhouse that's getting sun, and you're getting radiant heat off of the sides of the walls, in addition to the air temperature moving through the Rickhouse. And you guys are not getting that radiant heat at all, at least down in the vault, but you're getting that high airflow of outside air coming in. So you're going to have a variation and a difference. That's kind of, again, this is why I love whiskey, is it's completely unique to you. It can only be your vault, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about all this, is that, we're capturing a time and a place. And it's unique. I mean, that in the truest sense of the word.
Yeah. Now you have plans to do some offsite storage though, as well. So you can do like bigger barrels and stuff.
Yep. That's the plan. So over the next month or two, we'll start filling 53-gallon barrels and moving them to offsite storage. And so there will be a time in the near future we'll have to mingle those two together to achieve a flavor we're going after.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, can you pick any specific notes off of these two whiskeys that you may have recognized before, or something in your taste memory or smell memory that you can identify immediately?
Well, the bourbon, like I said, mentioned before, has that pepper note, which I've never. It's really interesting to me because I don't think I've ever gotten that note before.
On the nose or the palate?
On the palate.
Okay.
Oh, well, really on both.
Okay.
But that's more fair. So on the palate, and but it's not like it doesn't hurt, which sounds silly, but like if things are too peppered, too spicy, like I'm weak sauce with that kind of stuff. I don't handle it very well, and it physically hurts.
Yeah.
But this not at all. Like the pepper flavor is like so enjoyable and smooth, and so that's really interesting to me. I don't think I've encountered something like that before.
So now, Rick, I'm getting, and I'm wondering if you can either confirm or deny, but like for me, it's almost like a bandsaw going through cedar, like that kind of hot, like freshly cut wood smell.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I get that. What would you, it's like you planed a piece of wood. You get that.
Yeah.
There's a decent amount of oak on the nose too, along with that, like freshly sawn character.
But it's also got that kind of it's that pepperiness that I think you're getting. It's almost like the juniper. Like it's not juniper. It definitely is not. But like on the nose, like it's kind of like Central Texas cedar. That smell that you get when you're kind of out in the hill country. It's got a bit
Yeah.
of that on the nose as well for the bourbon that we're talking about here. On the rye,
I don't know how to explain it.
the rye, man, I'm telling you, this rye is fascinating.
It's like maple, but not maple, like maple light, if there is such a thing.
Maple
but I can't think of one.
Maple Light.
Hashtag Maple Light.
You gotta trademark that right now.
Maple light.
Yeah.
It's a new Canadian whiskey. Maple Light.
Everyone's gonna start coming to me for tasting notes. That's for sure.
You've already had a couple
happening.
hashtags in there. You got Tiger Blood. You got hashtag Longhorn Antlers.
Yeah, get your antlers up.
Yeah.
Get your antlers up, Spencer.
Oh man.
I thought I was wrong.
So Charles Massey asks, where can we get Maverick whiskey? And then he clarifies, in Houston.
I'm sorry to say right now it's not available in Houston, but so we're working on distribution. That's been kind of our goal for 2020 is to get in the distribution chain and get this stuff out there. In the meantime, we sell it at the tasting room. 2 bottles per person per 30 days.
Yeah, we'll work on that too.
Yeah,
Let me have another
There's
whiff.
a little floral to it. I don't know.
You're drinking through this. She likes the rye, man.
Well, and
Now, rye is awesome stuff. I didn't have a chance to write notes on the rye, but I mean, I had some of it last night, and I was just like, this hits every rye note. Yeah, I got.
Yeah, what did you
had
get?
to pull a sample.
Same barrel.
So, what notes are you getting on it?
So, it definitely is a little sweet on the nose.
It is. It's got a powdered sugar kind of note on the nose, which is weird for a rye. And I only can imagine you're getting good wood sugar extraction in this first year. What barrel proof did you put in at?
We enter everything at 120.
Okay.
So what I think is really, I feel like this is, and it's too bad folks can't taste it at home. This is a perfect example of why I have not pushed myself before now to have more notes when I'm tasting. Because I don't have an instant
You don't know exactly what you're getting.
connection. It's not one flavor that I can pinpoint, but I just know that I like it, which there goes my rule again. But
yeah.
No, and that's a little bit my
We're halfway
personality.
through this series. You might as well give up on it.
Yeah.
Just say you like stuff.
It's my personality.
What you like.
Just like, oh, I like great. I like it. Like, I don't necessarily need to know all the how it's made stuff. Maybe like you do. And
Yeah.
Sounds like how Rick does. But yeah, no, I think this is such a perfect example. Like it's lovely. It's so enjoyable, but I have no idea what I'm tasting, like what it tastes like other than this is just great.
I'm getting almond on the rye, like a little bit of that.
A little bit of that.
Oh yeah, I can get that now. See, but that's what
Initially,
like I hear other people give notes, and then I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, that's how your brain
that.
works. Your brain can't. If you have one side that's saying, "Oh, this is a thing," and then you're having another part that's like the language part of your brain trying to put it together and give it an identity, right?
Yeah, I know what it reminds me of now.
Here we go.
That you've said the almond extract. There's this tea that I learned how to make. Do you remember? It was like you do like instant tea and crystal light lemonade, which sounds horrible. But you also put your whiskey does not taste like that, right? I promise you.
yeah. I mean, it's all subjective.
No, and then you put almond extract in it.
Yeah.
You put remember I used to make that?
I do remember that.
Like a tablespoon or more. And so it doesn't taste like
doesn't taste like that at all.
Instant tea lemonade, but it's that same sensory of, because otherwise you don't usually drink something that has almond extract in it. That's very unique.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of that sensory experience.
And I'm just getting that on the nose. Do you get that too?
A little, yeah. And when I pulled it from the barrel, it was like open. I don't get it now, but when it came immediately out of the barrel, into the glass, it was like opening a jar of dill pickles. There was so much dill character on it.
I can see that.
I get a little bit now, but it was right out of the barrel. It was like Del Dixie.
Did you proof it down a little bit?
I did, yeah. So it came out of the barrel just over 120.
Yeah.
And so I cut it down to 88, so 44 ABV.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I think, yeah, if you by cutting it, I could see if it was more intense, if it was more barrel proof, that you'd get a lot more of that kind of mustard seed that you get with like a dill.
Can I have some more?
There you go, Rick. There you go.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, her notes are more, please. Let's get some questions in here. So let's see. Well, Charles said, and I know Charles is telling the truth here. As soon as this Corona stuff is behind us, we'll definitely be there. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Is this somebody that you know?
That is my lovely wife, Catherine.
Oh,
hi, Catherine.
Hopefully one of these times we'll get to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charles does ask if there's drive-by pickup.
We are doing curbside. So if you go to our website, we've got a little menu. We got menus posted, so you can get your 2 bottles of our new bourbon. This is also really weird. Launching a new product in the middle of a pandemic has been a little weird, but you can get 2 bottles of any of the products. We also are a brewery, so we've got crowlers of beer, and we're a winery, so you can buy bottles of wine all to go. And then we're also selling our hand sanitizer. But with your purchase, we'll give you a refill on your Purell bottle if you want.
Nice.
Awesome.
Now, this Bruce asked a question. He says, "Brewery, talk about the chicken beer."
Wait, what?
So we did this. The Nashville hot chicken has been this phenomenon over 2019. Like that was the hot new rage, was this hot Nashville hot chicken. And so we're just goofing around in the distillery, like because all these new hazy IPAs and haze boys and haze bros and all this crazy, and then all the like cream stouts and all these weird like dessert beers. And so we were kind of ripping on all that. And then somebody said, well, we should do a Nashville hot chicken beer. And so it kind of steamrolled, and we found this recipe, from England called an old cock ale, where they actually like take their oldest rooster. This is from a millennia ago.
Yeah.
Right.
They would take their oldest rooster and roast him and pulverize him with herbs and spices and soak it in wine, and then
Why not?
And then add that to a fermented beer, and that was your old cock ale. And so we sort of we skipped the old rooster part and just got some rotisserie chickens from HEB.
HEB makes an amazing rotisserie chicken.
They do.
Oh, hey, those things are
Love
for
that.
$6 or whatever. You can feed a family of 4 on those bad boys.
Amazing.
HEB, man. If any of you HEB people are watching, thank you for everything you're doing.
Yes.
And thank you for just being
much love.
I mean, thank you for just being
Much love to
badass place
HEB.
all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we all in Texas know how amazing HEB is on a daily basis, but then to like throw in on top of it what they're able to do, like during Hurricane Harvey and during this pandemic, and man, they've got stuff buttoned up.
Yeah.
So
They really do, including their rotisserie chickens.
Yes, exactly. So Cliff on Facebook asks, he goes, "I know it's early in your distillery's development, but any thought of a beer barrel finished whiskey given your close proximity to a brewery?"
Yeah, so we kind of already started that. Not beer barrel finished whiskeys, but the other way around. On some of these fresh dump Alamo barrels that we had laying around, we brewed some Imperial Brown Stout and barrel aged that. And so that's been tucked away for a rainy day. I think we'll probably release that sometime this fall.
Nice. Well, there's Charles saying it looks like chicken and waffles beer.
Oh my gosh, I really want fried chicken now.
I like this. Dinner and drinks in the glass.
Start of our 600-pound life.
Yeah, I know.
Having this pod like live stream at 9 p.m. and drinking good whiskey, and then let's get some good food.
It's gonna, yeah. I think the quarantine 15 is gonna be a thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like your freshman 15, but
the quarantine 15.
One thing I've noticed is that HEB is always sold out of flour, right?
Carbs. Like they're always sold out of carbs.
So all of a sudden, all these gluten-free, keto people all went off the wagon at the exact same time.
Well, what did I do? I walked like how many miles to Whole Foods one day so I could buy flour so I could make cookies.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, you got to do what you got to do to survive.
So, we didn't spend enough time talking about this because we're talking about the chicken beer, but you guys have a world-class restaurant.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Talk about that if you don't mind.
So the restaurant was one of those things where it wasn't supposed to be a full-blown restaurant initially. We wanted to have some appetizers or something, and then it kind of it's like, well, we're already doing all this other cool stuff, like let's just take it the rest of the way. And so we got a great chef come in and develop a really awesome menu. I mean, and we had everything from southern staples to tomahawk steak, a tomahawk ribeye, and so the food is just absolutely amazing. And it's a unique experience in that you come in and the liquor's all made right there, the food's all made right there, and the beer's all made right there, and you can have a sit down meal and drinks that is unique to this place, and so it's awesome.
Yeah, one of the things I think a lot of people don't understand is that when you have a bar in a distillery, you have to make all of the components that you use to back your bar, right? So you got to make your own gin, vodka, rums, whatever you want to do as a mixer or as a spirit. You have to create that spirit yourself, right? Yeah,
and that's been we're Maverick Whiskey first, and so whiskey is what we do 80 or 90% of the time, but we're also cranking out some really amazing gin and vodka now. We added vodka, and we've got white rum, and we're doing an agave spirit that we're having a bit of a time getting label approval on, but we've got it in house. And so that was a challenge at first, but it's turned into a lot of amazing products. Not to mention the whiskeys we're doing too.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple folks in there that were saying that I think John Hall, who's at least as of before the pandemic, John was leading the trail.
Yeah.
I think he was only like 1 or 2 stops away from completing the trail this year before all of this.
Holy crap.
I know, right?
I think it was like a week, because I think he told us something like around March 14th he was going to be done.
Yeah.
Which
it's like right as this thing hit. So John, thank you for being an amazing trailblazer. We appreciate you. So let me see. There's a couple other things in here, but people are asking why chicken and waffles is such a big thing down in the South. It's like, well,
why not?
Exactly. Yeah. If it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
So look, let's any last things where I know people can pick it up at the distillery. Mm-hmm. Is there, you guys are doing curbside, you're planning on getting into distribution this year, but what can people do to support you guys as a distillery right now?
I mean, if you can, put in a curbside pickup order, come and see us. Like we hated to cancel tours and all of that. That's how we get to directly interact with the public and kind of teach people about what we're doing. But yeah, if they, put in a curbside order and, get some whiskey and some gin and some hand sanitizer and, just support us. It's tough. We're working 6-7 days a week trying to crank out this hand sanitizer in the time of need. And, we need help as well, So that's it. Just support us. And, when this is all over, come and see us.
Yeah. And you can, we don't want to encourage travel in groups, right? But you can still in Texas get in your car and take a drive and pick up some bottles.
Yeah.
It's still beautiful for driving right now.
It's a
you
great
can get
time of year to
see
do
the
that.
wildflowers
Yeah.
if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Drive and wave at the Alamo and go pick up some whiskey.
Yeah.
You guys are how far away are you from the Alamo?
We are about a block and a half away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you guys are right there downtown and amazing location. So when this is all said and done, y'all have to go and get the tour because you're going to love it. And you have to eat there and do all the things, spend all your money and help these guys out when this is all said and done. But
absolutely.
Hey, Rick, thank you so much. Thank you for getting us this stuff this week. I'm afraid that this little tester bottle is going to be
back down tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're like, you need to go back to San Antonio.
I mean, you I'm not kidding when I say I think you really do have something special here.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that out, early next year.
Well, I mean, to me, the novice that I am, I've tasted a lot of things though in the last year and a half. And I think when your white dog, when your unaged stuff is so palatable, it's like, well, this can only
get better.
Amazing.
Yep.
Like it's a good sign of what's to come. And so, yeah, I'm really glad you guys are on the trail and in the association. And I'm really glad to be spending my Friday night.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, look, cheers to you. I'm going to try to queue up. Give me a second here while I queue this video up. I apologize. But we're going to queue up the video for those of you that didn't get to see it. Cheers to you, to your health, Rick.
Cheers, guys.
We look forward to working with you guys soon and seeing you on the trail in an
Yes.
official capacity very soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody be well. We love you. Thanks for supporting us.
Happy Easter and stay home.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Happy Good Friday Good Friday.
Well,
Not happy, but we appreciate everything. We'll get this video set up and you guys have a great night. Okay.
All right. Same to you guys.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
This whole project started as kind of a labor of love. I would say it's in my blood. It goes back generations. So Amy and I founded Maverick Whiskey to honor my great-great-great-grandparents, Sam and Mary Maverick.
Sam and Mary played a huge role in the history of Texas. Sam signed the Texas Declaration of Independence. He served in the legislature. He also served as mayor of San Antonio.
I found a copy of Sam's original diaries that we base our Alamo whiskey on. Back in those days, he used to whiskey as currency. He would close a deal with a barrel of whiskey and a handshake. We stayed as true to the old ways as much as even a copper still, and we source all of our grains from Texas. It's real cowboy whiskey.
Ken and I, in the current generation of Mavericks, are still making whiskey in the traditional manner, but we've just taken it a step further and modernized it.
Originally, this building was a bank building. It's 101 years old. We do everything in-house. We have a gourmet restaurant, a distillery, a brewery, and an event space. And everything is made by hand in-house.
The reason this building is so special to us is that it sits on part of the Mavericks' original family homestead, and it just sits steps from the Alamo.
It's so much fun because we see people from all over coming, and we love to share the stories of the Alamo and our family history, and to try to create an authentic experience that is purely San Antonio.